Hi, peeps. It's so wonderful to get a chance to sit with you all and just chat today. As I've been moving through kind of a year of needing to redefine energy levels for myself, I've had a lot of time, especially over the last month or so, to really be able to engage in self-reflection in a really beautiful, nuanced way. I think there's something that's been very profound about turning 40 for me and being able to turn inward, not experiencing solitude as something that I have to step out of, but that I can really allow myself to embrace whenever I need it. And so I felt very inspired to craft this list for those of you who are also looking to engage in periods of deeper self-reflection and who want to be able to use your decks in order to really dive into that practice. So the first thing that I want to do is clarify self-reflection versus shadow work. When we're engaged in shadow work, we're really going into a space where we're looking at core wounds, examining them, and then seeking to bring them into the light of our own knowing and love for integration, right? We're calling back those fractured parts of ourselves. And I have many deck list offerings on the channel for shadow work. So please feel free to check out any of my shadow playlists, any of my left-hand path playlists in order to really connect in with that energy for yourself, if that's something that you're called to explore at this point in time. But the difference here when we're speaking about self-reflection is we're really looking at getting to know and understand ourselves, being with ourselves, not only exploring how we have grown or maybe what we're grieving or what we're embracing in our life, but getting to know ourselves. And I found what's come through in a lot of my session work and channeling work over the last year has had to do with getting to know ourselves, understanding ourselves, and being with ourselves. Not checking out while we're with ourselves by doom scrolling, but really being with ourselves in order to understand who we are. This brings a profound level of connection to our practice for ourselves, whether we identify as witches, left-hand pathers, or just someone who's involved in alternative spirituality. This is a key to really unlocking a sense of connection and fulfillment in our path, I feel. So I wanted to include this offering on the channel. This is going to be my top 5 oracle decks for self-reflection. I will also have a top 5 tarot deck list for self-reflection as well. When it came to putting this list together, I really, I didn't want to combine tarot and oracle because I think we can approach them absolutely in a marriage together. But when it comes to self-reflection, I tend to go either or, tarot or oracle. And I have to say, I really prefer oracle decks when it comes to this type of intimate self-reflection, with the exception of one tarot deck, which you will see on the tarot deck list for this series when that uploads to the channel. So I couldn't just list 5 though, even though I know you guys love top 5 videos. I do have some honorable mentions here that I would like to share with you. So for my honorable mentions, and I almost was loath to put this on the list, but the Light Workers Oracle, the 1111 Fierce Love Edition by Alana Fairchild is an honorable mention for me. A very dear sister in the cards of mine told me that I had to get this one, or she really recommended it. And she was right. The updated artwork has made all the difference with this deck. I really love working with this, and it's honorable mention because it's not necessarily my my top 5, go-to for self-reflection, but it does really allow me to pause, to savor my quality time with myself, and to do some really nice journal work for self-awareness. So the artwork is updated. If you did not connect with the first edition, this is a very different beast. And if you are a Patreon supporter, I did do an unboxing of this for Patreon peeps only, or perhaps not unboxing, a review of that for Patreon peeps only, but that is Alana Fairchild's Lightworker Oracle. I do just want to reaffirm for you, you need to get the Fierce Love 1111 edition. I would not get the first edition if I were you. My other two honorable mentions are Soul Cards and the Empty Cup Oracle. The Empty Cup Oracle is by Stasia Burrington. This was gifted to me by a wonderful dear sister in the cards and beloved friend, and I cannot thank her enough. And over time, the Empty Cup Oracle is still enough, it's peaceful enough, it's quiet enough in its artwork for me to slow down enough to drop into that deep well of knowing within myself and spend time with myself at a quality level so that I can reflect and understand my feelings, emotions, my story and journey at this point in time. So the Empty Cup Oracle, I highly recommend it. It almost made my top 5. It's a really beautiful, quiet deck, but it's also very nostalgic and it helps with inner child work for sure. And then my Soul Cards Oracle. I know, guys, I'm going to do a workshop with this deck, I think, because I come back to the Soul Cards one over and over and over again throughout the years. It's a completely intuitive deck. There's no guidebook. So it's beautiful for self-reflection and for getting to know yourself because you're required to sit with the imagery and with what comes up uniquely for you, not a general consensus or an artist's idea of the artwork, but your own. So it's very powerful to get to know yourself. And if you're just stepping into a journey of figuring out who you are, this can be a great option. I highly recommend it for that. Okay, now into the top 5. This was hard. It was hard to narrow it down to just 5, but I'm pretty happy with what we have here. So at number 5 for me is Sandra Kunz Messenger Oracle. This is it was an indie deck. I believe it's still available for purchase. If it is, I will put the link to the artist's site down below. I interviewed Sandra. She was the first artist I've ever interviewed on the channel a long time ago. There's something so beautiful and still about this deck and the animal spirit energy in it. The guidebook is lovely, but I do primarily work with this deck intuitively. And I love to journal and pull. I'll typically pull like 1 to 5 cards from this deck around some journal prompts I'm working with, or perhaps a situation, a story, a chapter in my life that I'm looking back at or trying to understand currently. And this deck really offers that wisdom in a very loving, kind way that is not confrontational. It's soft, it's enveloping, it's encouraging, and it's just curious enough without feeling exhausting. So Sandra Kunz Messenger Oracle is number 5 for me when it comes to really looking at self-reflection, journaling, quality, quiet time with my own energy. I've really been coming to experience finding the soulmate within oneself as so much of the purpose of incarnating into human form at this time. That our greatest love affair, it really is with getting to know ourselves as expressed through this unique physical reflection of our soul's light. And this deck really beautifully allows for that. I really love this deck, and I've come to love it more and more over the years. Next on the list is the Haunted Manor Oracle. Oh God, I hope I remember the name of this right, by Syrian Shadow. I believe this deck is out of print right now, but I had to include it on this list because it is truly one of my top 5 decks for self-reflection. Not only is the artwork my dark aesthetic, but there's something about the power of looking at ourselves as a blueprint, a home, a manor, a mansion that we're stepping into and exploring. The same dear friend within the cards that I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of conversation about that, and she's really helped me to look at and redefine visualizing and experiencing myself as rooms, as a home, and what does that look like? And this deck really literally gives us that visual. So it's very powerful to tap into, what am I not really consciously aware of that I'm moving through at this time, that I'm feeling, that I'm exploring, that I'm wanting to come to understand. So Whitney, thank you so much, my dear sister in the cards. And thank you to Syrian for creating a deck that lets us step into a physical space in order to understand ourselves better. And it's seen through an aesthetic that I really do just love and adore. So This is a very, very beautiful, powerful deck in so many ways. And again, I don't really reference the guidebook a great deal with this one. I really let it be intuitively about what moving into the rooms within this haunted manor are for me, and how that reflects into my own personal story as well. So that is the Haunted Manor Oracle. Next on the list is the Magic of You Oracle by Fiona Horn. Oh my God, this deck. It's like one of those ones that I loved it when I first got it, but I didn't understand how profound this deck was going to become in my practice. I think it really resonates for those of us who identify as witches, or who are following a path of eclectic witchery or paganism as part of our story. It just speaks to the witch's path, her tools, her story, her experience, and her roots so beautifully. But what I found it to be very powerful for when it comes to self-reflection is encouraging a sense of loving wherever you are, and finding the mystery, the wisdom, the key to understanding why something is happening at this point in time, and where the opportunity for the lesson is, and what magic lies within myself. Obviously, the title being the Magic of You Oracle, but also what magic I can activate and work within my life to find more of the beauty within the story that is my own. So this deck is really, really special for that. It's also a great one for journal prompts and for card spreads that encourage, again, self-reflection. It's a beautiful, beautiful deck. It's relatively inexpensive, and I can't recommend it enough if you have the budget for it to bring into your personal practice. So that is the Magic of You Oracle. Barbari's Dante's Inferno Oracle is number 2 on my list. I was kind of surprised it made it so high, because Dante's Inferno isn't necessarily a storyline that necessarily, a story or a myth that really personally speaks to me. However, the imagery within this deck and the way in which the guidebook teases out the story, lesson, wisdom within it in a card pull is just off the charts for me, for really helping me to activate self-awareness and self-reflection. It's definitely it definitely crosses over into shadow work, but it's not only a shadow work deck, and I really haven't been primarily using it for shadow work. I've really been using it to understand why I am where I'm at in my story, and why I might be engaging in certain coping mechanisms, or hiding, or not looking at the big picture for myself. It's definitely a straight shooter. It's super honest, so I wouldn't work with it if you're feeling really tender. But the honesty of this deck does help you to get right to the point and to understand certain chapters within one's story and aspects of our personality. And sometimes that honesty really helps you get out of a funk. You know, sometimes honesty, like the Dante's Inferno Oracle provides, really lets us kind of get out of something, because all of a sudden we have an awareness around it. Now we don't have to sit in that heavy energy. The awareness can let us make new choices and move in new directions. So Dante's Inferno Oracle is number 2. Also, just side note, I love this card backing. Isn't that beautiful? So that is by Paolo Barbieri. And number 1 on my decks for self-reflection, yes, is Alana Fairchild's Kali Oracle, the large edition. I find the pocket edition lends itself very well for a cheerleader. The full-size edition really lends itself well to get to know yourself and to understand your soul lesson, your soul contracts in this life, and also your soul's purpose. There's something so just intensely wonderful about this deck. I really thought it was going to be more of a kick you in the ass shadow work deck when I first purchased it, and it's become so that, but so much more. There are so many loving facets to the fierce mother that is Ma Kali, and this deck just provides infinite windows of opportunity to connect with her love, with her wisdom, with her awareness and understanding. And from that space, we come to understand ourselves better. And the guidebook is so meaty and juicy that it really just begs for a one card pull where you just sit and riff in your journaling on understanding yourself based on the wisdom offered through the channeling in the guidebook meanings. I do use this guidebook with this oracle deck, and I definitely encourage you to as well. It's so powerful when it comes to helping us to understand ourselves, our chapters in our life, our stories. It's just so, so very, very, very beautiful. I love this deck so much. It's definitely in my top 5 oracle decks of all time still. And it's one that I can't imagine not having in my collection. It's just so profoundly beautiful. I just want to show a few of my favorite images here. And so if there's only one deck that you can work with on this list, I would encourage you to allow it to be the Kali Oracle if the deck calls to you, because it is so profound. And for me, it's really like a one-stop shop as well, because you can get so much out of this deck. She's a cheerleader, she's a truth teller, she can move into shadow work very easily. And primarily for me, she really helps me to understand myself, seen through this very powerfully loving lens that is Ma Kali's gaze. So I highly, highly recommend Alana Fairchild's Kali Oracle for self-reflection. And as I said, if there's only one deck on this list that you can get or that you can work with at this point in time, I would encourage you to let it be the Kali Oracle. But I hope you've enjoyed kind of spending a little time with me as we savor the sweetness that are oracle decks, which help us to understand ourselves and our story in new ways. I am sending you, as always, oceans of love. Be on the lookout for the tarot edition of this deck list series. And I will, of course, as always, see you in the next video.